Want to win a copy of WWE 2K20's Collector's Edition? Of course you do! Go check out the link in the description and comment section down below. One copy for Xbox, one copy for PlayStation. Make sure you get your entries in as soon as possible, and good luck. Season 6 is literally, we can actually count it, it's literally more than 10 days away. It's crazy how quickly things come about in this game. In fact, this video originally was scripted for July 2018. How things have changed. Since then, we've had the introduction of Over the Limit, of course. Season 5 came along, Giants Unleashed. We've had more and more fusion events, less and less reliance on things like throwbacks and Hall of Fame cards, just to name a few. Definitely a lot more focus on things like fusions and special events, which people have been clamoring for a long time. But as much as things change, they also stay the same, and there needs to be some fundamental changes, in my opinion, and the opinion of many other people, to stop the game from becoming stale. Question for today's video is, what needs to change in Season 6? Now, I have a lot of individual pointers, but I'm just going to cut it down to the ones I think are most important. This is going to be, I wouldn't say a lengthy video, but at least a video that's going to explain why I think certain things should change. And I want to know from you if you agree or you've got maybe different opinions by putting what you think in the comment section below. Also, if you like what you're hearing, if you like what you see, and you breathe oxygen, you guys know what to do. You need to be smacking that like button. And if you exist, you're living right now, you're not dead, or I think you're not dead, subscribe to the channel and turn your notifications on. Unless someone's found a way to YouTube into the afterlife, I'm pretty sure that's you. So why am I bringing this up now, other than the fact that Season 6 is just around the corner? Well, the main reason is that back in December last year when Over the Limit was announced, that went well, didn't it? I had a long conversation with some of the guys from Cat Daddy, and some of the points I raised were quite frank and needed to be discussed. Things we talked about were King of the Rings, which have now changed, although I do still think need to be a little bit different, but the timing now is way better than it was beforehand. We also spoke about events, and Giants Unleashed did come out, even though Over the Limit was, well, we don't really need to be speaking about that, but the fact that they've now implemented it into other parts of the game it's actually pretty good. At least they're doing something with it. Other things are on the table as well, including Heroic Mode, Road to Glory, and some things I suggested. Obviously, I don't know if that was, because of my ideas or just in general because of community feedback, but those are the kind of things we discussed. When I sat down and looked at things with them for Giants Unleashed, though, it was a very different response. In fact, what was said to us was that the game was going in a more casual direction. It was designed to have this game as more of a pick up and play on the go. However, the game itself doesn't show that at all. In fact, Giants Unleashed doesn't even show that, in my personal opinion. So here's going to be some ways to make this gradual change and retain interest from the general public as well as the existing player base. Now, just FYI, I do have some notes on the screen because otherwise I'd forget all these points. So if I do look like I'm not looking directly at the camera, it's because I've got a couple of notes which I'm going to read through, just so you guys understand exactly what I'm trying to get across. The first thing, we all know, stat decrease or a stat squash. In fact, I'd go as far as saying the number too damn high. In fact, a lot of this would be solved by a reset, but we all know that's not going to happen, at least this year, because they would have probably announced it already. And it would be hella unpopular. The fact of the matter is that this needs to change. Doesn't matter how it changes. That's not for me to think about. But Cat Daddy needs to do something about the numbers because it's getting stupid. It's getting real stupid. It's getting dumb. It's getting dumber. It's getting dumbest. This needs to happen. End of story. Now, this is more of a complaint about where they're placing certain superstars in tiers and the arrow placements. Now, this has been improved in SummerSlam 19 with certain individual superstars changing. However, this needs to change for good over the entirety of the game. It actually freshens things up. Now, tag teams still don't tag in the game, but it needs to be wide scale. We need to get some really big changes in, even if it is just to freshen things up and make sure that the right people are in the right places in the tier. The last thing I want to see is Kalisto, for example, higher than Kevin Owens, because Kalisto's a left arrow and there's not many left arrows at the top of the tier. That just, no. Change the stats, change the arrows, and make sure tag teams tag. Another simplish one, advanced tier removal. Last year we got all the Season 2 cards taken away. This year I'm actually proposing something more radical, and I'm saying Season 3 and Season 4, their cards need to go. Take it all away, go back to Gothic, and every single person who joins the game new immediately has a shattered deck. Nice and simple, gets people way, way further up. And with the stat reduction as well, it's going to make people think, you know what? I want to play this game more. I don't feel like there's enough of an insight, there's no incentive. There's no incentive to play the game if you're in a low tier. There needs to be something, whether it's immediate pulls, whether it's reduced pull rates. There needs to be something. Right now there isn't. In fairness, there's nowhere near enough rewards for the players who are in the lower tiers. Fourth is all about retaining interest in the tier, and obviously we do add new event style cards and fusion cards, but I'm gonna say add new cards to the tier, the standard cards to the tier, or even a whole set of brand new cards to the tier that are better than the ones that are in the tier already. So maybe 2 months into a tier, introduce new cards that are even better, but are ones that are pullable from the board. Last time this happened was in WrestleMania tier back in Season 2, where we had Zack Ryder and Tyler Breeze added to the tier at a later date. And this is something I think that should happen anyway, on a regular basis. It allows certain superstars to come in when maybe they come back from an injury, or maybe they become more relevant, such as maybe Jinder Mahal, for example. The next one is about special events. Now, we had the Velveteen Dream event. It did add purpose to the game after the tier releases, but these kind of events need to happen a lot more often. And personally, I think they need to be planned out more. Monthly tier special events are probably good, but maybe reduce it to maybe 2 or 3 weeks, or have loads planned out. And if you're going to do an over the limit, don't make it too difficult. You could also add special cards to the board. For example, I've mentioned in here about pay-per-views. So instead of just having Money in the Bank cards, have something like an Inform or a special superstar. You guys, anyone who plays FIFA will know about this, or Madden Ultimate Team, which could push playtime in the game and to get the rarest cards possible, like we have with the Fiend in this month's SummerSlam 19, like we have with the Velveteen Dream, the Undertaker, Batista, those kind of things. Those kind of things are going to get people playing, and I definitely feel that that is the best way to go. Now we're going to get into some bigger changes here. So those so far were just suggestions about things that you can change or keep adding to the game. But now we're talking about removing things, and I'm going to suggest a big one: remove enhancements and instead add accessories or attachments. It can be pretty much anything. It doesn't need to be a specific name, but the idea of this is a format that allows support cards and accessories to be attached to cards for stat boosts. So you can have, for example, a Paul Heyman added to Brock Lesnar, and it'll give him a permanent boost, for example. But if you was to add, I don't know, a Sensational Sherry to a Brock Lesnar, the boost wouldn't be as much, but you'd still get a boost in toughness and speed. But this is where the accessories come in. This will make it a hell of a lot better and more beneficial, and remove the annoyance of the enhancement limit, which Cat Daddy seemed to be absolutely adamant is staying in the game, even though it's a joke, by adding things such as a Universal title, a Cruiserweight Championship, or a WWE Championship. An example would be if you was to add the Universal Championship accessory to a card, it would give them a power and toughness stat boost. and these would be either permanent or for a set amount of time. But the rarity of these would be much higher than a standard enhancement. Cruiserweight Championship would add speed and charisma. You could also then attach managers. So like I said, Brock Lesnar would have Paul Heyman, and each individual superstar would link with certain enhancements or certain managers to get those boosts. This also provides more use for a lot of support cards that are pulled off the board, because they would then be able to be used as non-permanent stat boosts. The next part is all gameplay. The gameplay has been the same since Season 2. The only real change in gameplay has been from Giants Unleashed. And here's a couple of suggestions that would make some big changes. First of all, the game leveling system I think is way too much, way too hard, and I would suggest something more around the area of the procs or the ability boosts, which would be 20 games per stat. The token system should mean something. Alternatively, change it. At the moment, token systems mean absolutely nothing. Everyone knows where they're going to put their tokens on their cards. There's no interest anymore in offering a system that just is going to be the same for everyone. The amount of female superstars in a tier needs to increase, and their stats need to fall in line more with the male superstars. For example, you've got guys, the top 10 very rarely includes Becky Lynch, Charlotte Flair, Ronda Rousey, etc. It's very rare to come across a superstar that is a female in the top 10 of a tier, and I think that needs to change. That would also move into something else I'm going to talk about, which would be a mixed match challenge mode. We're going to come on that in a second. And the recent ring domination changes on Road to Glory changes should be made permanent, but with a couple of changes to Road to Glory, because that was horrible. It's all about reducing the grind. Last Man Standing and Giants Unleashed are a perfect example of what you should be doing, but perhaps reducing the hardest parts of Last Man Standing and the points for Giants Unleashed. If they're really adamant of going down this I don't know, more sociable and more accessible gameplay, this is something they desperately need to change. Next point is game modes. What needs to come in, what needs to go. First of all, Over the Limit, in my personal opinion, is defunct. It doesn't really benefit. It's Giants Unleashed, but what is it? It just kind of sits there. You know, I would prefer Giants Unleashed playing in the background than I would prefer Over the Limit. Even though with likelihood it's not going to go because it's only just been introduced, I would much rather prefer something like, I don't know, a mixed match challenge event where we've got an option of using female and male superstars, given that it's included in 2K20. Or, what is it good for? Absolutely nothing. Personally, it needs to be replaced with a gimmick style match. I've made an example here of Survivor Series, Hell in a Cell, or whatever you want to do. You can even do bragging rights. I don't know. Even though, actually, no, that's probably a bad idea. Team Battleground. I think that needs to be replaced with a brand warfare style mode. So something like Raw versus SmackDown versus NXT or something similar. So one team is Raw, one team is SmackDown, and you draft brand specific cards. So not all the cards are always the same, and you can't necessarily predict what you're going to get. And I also feel that we can make a big change by replacing Over the Limit with something a little bit more creative. Next point, wild mode. What needs to change? First of all, War is going because of wild mode changes and because it's basically the same. There is no difference. So changes to wild mode could include mixed tag matches. As I explained earlier, mixed tag matches, adding a third female slot, removing a fourth male slot, and include an auto timer just like War, so Wild plays itself. That falls straight into the MO that they want to make this more casual. By allowing the game to play itself, just like War does, it just makes so much sense. The list is long, just FYI, and some of these things may, be way too much to change, but this is a whole list of things that could be restructured or rebalanced. Talking about restructuring and rebalance, PvP. Number of momentum slots need to be easier to obtain for casuals. I would say the maximum 5 momentums, but you can add one to be obtained through heroic event completions, one from a monthly quest, for example. Male Elimination Chamber needs to be added, obviously bespoke our war being removed. Elimination Chamber needs to be able to train up cards just like it does in Royal Rumble, and the points earned in the Elimination Chamber need to be much higher than before, considering how much of a grind it is to play a longer game mode sometimes than Royal Rumble. Heroic mode, our favourite game mode, ladies and gentlemen. I said back nearly a year ago things needed to change, and well, they tried it and then realised it sucked. So what needs to change? First of all, Road to Glory starts 3 tiers below your current tier. And I've suggested this beforehand, but if you're in SummerSlam 19 now, you would have the event card, the current card, and then you would go down. Cataclysm, WrestleMania 35, and then Shatter tier. That's the kind of way it would work, but every time you go down the tier, it would add another tier. So for example, if you're Cataclysm, then it would add a card onto that. Ring domination needs to stay roughly as it is. Maybe I would keep that you could halve the amount of shards on the lower cards, but with that in mind, you need to be able to switch between ring domination normal and ring domination heroic to allow people to play for certain cards. I think the fact that you're locked out of the normal ring domination kind of counteractive, especially to the higher tier players. This next one is a long one, so strap in. Rewards overhaul. The entire reward system across the game is way too complex, and for a newbie to a casual player, this is something that does need to change. And also for any top or mid tier players, they need something that's gonna make things a little bit more straightforward than what they are. First of all, the stars in your starred catalogue. Why don't they mean something? Why do people who've got, let's say, 1,000 stars get nothing, and someone who gets into the game with 1 star in the game or 15 stars in the game gets exactly the same? Me personally, if you collect all those cards, you should be rewarded very similar to like a, I don't know, PvP, credits wise. You could also go along with ladder rewards, so ladder rewards specific to collecting cards. All ladder matches, talking about that, personally I think 1 per 5 to 10,000 games would actually make a big difference. And King of the Ring, runners up needs to get a chance at a top level card, even if it's between 2 sets like it is in Team Battleground. If you are SummerSlam 19, you come second, it's kind of a waste. It doesn't really help you. So the chance, let's say, for a Cataclysm to SummerSlam 19, for example, or whatever tier it is, would seriously help. And if you're below the top tier, personally, I think if you finish and win a King of the Ring, let's say in WrestleMania 35, you should get 2 cards at the top and 1 card if you come runner up. This is one I have been pushing for forever, and it seems like they might be changing things a little bit, especially the fact that no Hall of Fame or throwback cards have been revealed or released for SummerSlam 19 tier, and that is Hall of Fame and throwbacks should be pullable from the board and available in other stores such as reward stores like LP, CP, whatever you want to call it. I can't say CP because they changed it. Battleground, for example, and King of the Ring. Pulls need to be easier for lower tiers, more league packs and battle points rewards. Money in the Bank rewards mean to be lower because at the moment it's just crazy. I would introduce TBG and league points cards like Money in the Bank. Allow currency to be obtained by completing events. Heroic mode, for example, wild games. And here's the big one, and I think this is the one that I personally would advocate most out of everything I've just mentioned. Perhaps have one universal currency and store. So you could have SuperCard points or virtual currency like they have in the WWE games or the NBA games. At the current rate, Team Battleground, league points, Money in the Bank contracts, team events, it could all be used for virtual currency, plus you got your credits as well. 2 ways to spend your money. If you can't introduce these special cards in other ways, create it as a unified currency, and it's so much more simple. The next point is a massive overhaul for teams. The new team events, you know, we've had no new team events since Season 2. Come on, guys, we just need to, it needs to happen. Increased number of members needs to be increased to 15 and include point and play limit that all players must reach during team events to attain awards, which it should be done anyway. For example, in Over the Limit, you have to play a certain amount of points. It's not a lot, but if you had to get, for example, 5 shards in Team Ring Domination, or at least, I don't know, 50 points or 100 points in Team Road to Glory, not only would it incentivize players to play, but it would also stop freeloading, which is something I know is a big problem. I also feel that the game could do with a lot more customization with teams and a lot more, I don't know, just needs a refresh, which is why I said maybe take Team Battleground away. This one should be a doozy. Community involvement. I mean, I'm sorry, but we need polls, choice of cards for team events, special events for pay-per-views, promote streamers and content creators, and the smaller ones especially, because it's incredibly difficult to break out in most gaming communities. But if SuperCard could stand out and push the smaller guys, like they did start doing, I think that would be good for everyone. But videos that are featuring certain things, you know, all this kind of stuff could be massively beneficial, not just to the content creators, but the community as a whole. And now there's been some important points, but this one I feel is the one that's going to emanate the most, and that is reducing the overall cost of the game. And it has got a little bit out of control with things like heroic mode, certain card packs coming in. There seems to be no limit as to what they're willing to go to charge for certain packs. Bouts need to be reduced. Titles need to carry over to other events or, you know, multipliers. TBG multipliers. OTL definitely, since the Boogeyman Over the Limit event launched, that needs to be massively drawn back. That's way too much. And the fusions. Fusion Fridays is a massive slap in the face, again, in my opinion, to any player, because how can you suggest that someone has to pay full price and every single day apart from every Friday? I just don't agree with it. Maybe have a small discount, maybe have more incentives to do it, but fusions are way too expensive anyway. And some of the packs that you can find are just, again, way too expensive. You've had a lot of the Halloween packs have been over the top. There's no reason for them to be that expensive, but SuperCard keep doing it, and I think that needs to change. That's 15 things in total that if they, even just some of them changed, would make a massive difference to Season 6 and our experience as players moving forward. I did warn you, it was a long one. So make sure if you agree with any of these, let me know by smacking the like button and comment down below of any changes you think that should be made to the core gameplay or in general about the game. And don't forget to subscribe and turn notifications on, because Season 6 is rolling around very, very quickly, and I cannot wait to show you what's going to go down. Until next time though, I've been SuperZombGBBQ. You have been awesome. I'll see you in the next one.